a lot of people are going away for the vacation. So there's a question somebody asked that they're allowed to go on a cruise. Is there any issue halachically going on a cruise? Well, number one, Shabbat obviously, is that the Resh Mem Het, Shulchan Aruch says you're not allowed to go on a trip on a boat too close to Shabbat. There's a couple of reasons. It might lead to Chilul Shabbat, and also you might get sick. You might get sick going on the water. You're not going to be able to enjoy the Shabbat. So preferably a person should go on a boat no later than Wednesday. From the beginning of the week till Wednesday, that's when a person preferably should go on a boat, not too close to Shabbat. Now, even when a person's on a boat on Shabbat, obviously the boat has to be worked and driven and operated by goyim. You cannot have Jews doing Hilul Shabbat for you. And even when the non-Jews are doing the Hilul Shabbat, it has to be that there's many goyim on the boat, and they're doing it for the goyim. Happens to be you're there also, but they're not doing it for you specifically, doing it for all the goyim on the boat. Now, many times these cruises, they stop at many different places, and they stop in destinations. If a person's boat docked at some place on Shabbat, a person should stay on the boat. The person preferably should not get off. If he has to get off for whatever reason, there is what to rely on to get off and back on, but he should not take anything with him. He's going to be considered carrying to take things with you off the boat and back on. Sometimes you have to have ID, sometimes you have to be able to provide the documentation to go back on. The person has to think of this in advance, because you're not allowed to carry off the boat to the destination that you got on Shabbat, but the person preferably should stay on the boat. On the boat itself, a person is allowed to carry. It's all considered one place like a hotel. But another thing that comes up with Shabbat is the sinks, the toilets, the doors. All these things are electronic on a boat. It's not like there's a sewage and pipes like attached in a building. So a person has to check in advance and see. A lot of times we just show up and say, "Oh, it's electric. What do I do now?" A person has to check before. Just make sure there's no Hilul Shabbat when he goes to such a place. And obviously there's the kashrut. The kashrut person has to make sure that the kashrut is according to his standard, that there should be no Hilul Shabbat, and there should be Jews cooking the food, and it should be that Bet Yosef, Kemach Hashan, and all the things that Halav Yisrael, all the things that we keep. But I'll tell you something interesting. I remember one of my students, he said he wants to go on a cruise. He said, "Rabbi, this is the Mashgiach's number. Can you call him, ask him if everything's okay, if it's going to our standards?" I said, "No problem, I'll call him." I called him, I spoke to him, everything was good. I said to him, "Listen, that's the kashrut with the food, but let me ask, what about Shmirat Einayim? So what about guarding my eyes on this cruise?" I asked the Mashgiach, "Do you think my student will be able to guard his eyes on this cruise? Is there not tzanua people there?" He says, "Wow." He says, "It's a kosher cruise. Everybody always calls me if the food. You're the first person who asked me about the Shmirat Einayim. You're the first person who asked me about guarding the eyes, if it's tzanua or not." He says, "I'm shocked that you asked." He says, "No, you shouldn't go. It's almost impossible to guard your eyes. There's goyim walking everywhere." So I said to him, "Okay, very good to know." So I told my student, "So you can go. That's kasher. You just have to leave your eyes here. You can go there without eyes, and then it'll be mutar." So obviously it was a joke, but the person has to know that there's a big problem with Shmirat Einayim, with Shabbat and Kashrut, and the person has to think of these things in advance. And just because it says kosher cruise doesn't mean that everything's covered. If you don't ask, so Chas v'Shalom might be a rude awakening. So a person has to pay attention to these things before he goes. There's a story where there was a person who was there was a town who were very good at making wine. So they got the honor that the king is going to visit them one day. So they decided they're going to make a big kavod. They're going to make a barrel full of the best wine for the king, but everybody has to give a little bit. Everybody in the town is going to give a little bit. They're going to give him a whole barrel. So one guy, he was smart. He said, "You know what? Why should I give? I'll put water, and everybody else will put wine. Nobody will know that I put water." And it ended up being that everybody thought the same way. Everybody came, everybody put water, and nobody knew. And the king opened it, and he says, "What is this? You guys give me water? Shame on you. What kind of gift this is?" So therefore a person has to know, don't wait and say, he'll give the tzedakah, he'll do the mitzvah. In the end, if everybody thinks like this, we get nothing done. We have to say, "I will help you." When it comes to tzedakah, when it comes to the mitzvah, people say, Hashem Yazor, don't worry, Hashem Yazor. You don't want Chas v'Shalom somebody say to you the same thing. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen, amen.